Hello and welcome to Weird Around Illinois. Today we'd like to talk about Bigfoot, but specifically we'd like to talk about Bigfoot's DNA and why it is so hard for anybody to identify it when they bring it to a lab. So let's do that and let's get weird. Okay, so if you've seen a Bigfoot show, probably at some point on the show you see one of the people on the show grabbing a hair sample or a sample of soil or a piece of tree bark or something and saying, hey, there could be DNA on this, and putting it in a little plastic bag and putting it in their backpack and saying, we're going to bring that back to the lab. And then when the results come back from the lab, if they ever come back from the lab, there seem to be four basic choices: human, non-human primate, animal, or inconclusive. There's never a, oh my God, this has never been seen before, this must be Bigfoot. And that question is why? Why does it come back with less than the results that we're looking for? And what's the point in even sending out DNA if you're not going to be able to, ascertain whether or not it's an actual Bigfoot? So why don't we start by talking about why this might be so difficult?
Well, basically there is no baseline Sasquatch DNA. There's nothing called Sasquatch DNA right now.
Because to have that, you'd have to have a Sasquatch and take a swab of DNA from him and say, okay, this matches this, right?
Right, exactly.
Need some basis of comparison.
Yeah.
And Sasquatch has never sent his samples in to 23andMe or Ancestry.com or anything like that.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see the ancestry, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
You also can't really say Bigfoot DNA when nobody knows for sure what Bigfoot DNA looks like we said.
Yeah.
We really just don't know.
Yeah. I mean we've got a vague idea what sort of creature Bigfoot is. So, what DNA, what do you think the DNA might be similar to?
So we can guess it would look similar to like a human or other primates in terms of DNA,
Mm-hmm.
but we really don't know as far as the human and primate side go.
You were to ask probably any local scientist, they just give you Gigantopithecus or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But that's never come back either. They've never come back and said, yes, this is Gigantopithecus. It matches perfectly.
Yeah, and to be fair, nobody's ever found a red hair per se from Bigfoot. Has claimed it to be from Bigfoot when it's a red hair.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this hair that we see on Bigfoot shows, it could be hair from any other species for all we know. And it could just be saying, oh, this DNA was inconclusive, but really we don't know if that was from the actual hair.
Right. Yeah, and we, to your earlier point about human or primate DNA, we're assuming it's human or primate DNA, but what if Bigfoot is an alien and he has a completely different DNA structure than ours? Or what if he's not like a human ape hybrid? What if he's a human bear hybrid? What if there's bear DNA in him? Or what if he's a bear that evolved to be like a human rather than an ape that evolved to be like a human?
That'd be odd.
It would.
Yeah.
It would, but at this point I don't think we can rule anything out.
Until we get a confirmed DNA sample, but there are so many problems that might come with getting the sample.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them is just I remember seeing a Mountain Monsters thing where they literally just found a piece of hair on a fence.
Mm-hmm.
It was not even a super high, a certain height. It was just a normal fence. Anything could have gone to that. It could have been any animal could have touched that. Whatever was going through the woods could have passed by, and a lot of variables could have changed that or caused more deviation from what the actual DNA was.
Yeah, I could see that. There are so many animals that are out in these woods where Sasquatch is believed to be, and they all have hair.
Yeah.
whether we're talking about a bear or raccoon or mouse or deer or whatever, they've all got hair of some kind.
Yeah, so you can't just go to every fence, and then if you see hair, you can't always assume it's going to be Bigfoot.
And even if you see one 12 feet off the ground, it could be a squirrel.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And also in the transporting process of that whole thing, you gotta wonder, was the processing or was the transportation of this little piece of DNA, actually, I guess, safe and what's the word? Protected or some from other contaminations?
Yeah, I mean, how thorough are they in their protective procedures?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, just watching Bigfoot shows, there's a huge difference between the way, say, Maria from Expedition Bigfoot collects samples versus the way Willie from Mountain Monsters does.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think they'd be a little bit more protective of that kind of stuff. I've seen in a couple shows they just kind of get some gloves on and pick it up. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's even enough.
Yeah, and I've seen shows where they don't even put the gloves on.
Yeah.
They just yank the hairs off the tree, pop it in the bag. Yep, we're going to get this back to the lab for analysis.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a lot of variation there, and all it takes is one human to touch the sample, and all of a sudden you got human DNA on the sample.
Yeah, and that's why when you think it's something that new and it could lead to a lot of discoveries, that's why you got to take it seriously. And a lot of people may not take it seriously and may not wear gloves, like you said, which is kind of unacceptable.
And they may not even take it seriously when it gets to the lab.
That too.
Imagine you're sitting in a lab and you're being paid to analyze DNA samples for major crimes or something like that, and somebody drops a package on your desk and says, "Yeah, this could be Bigfoot." You're either going to be really, really excited and give it your all, or you're going to be like, "Yeah, right."
Yeah.
And you're gonna like set your coffee cup on it, and you're gonna, you're gonna forget about it for days, and then when you take it out, you're probably not gonna follow the same procedures you would with like a real lab analysis.
Hopefully, many of those people would just be consistent with their tests, but
I would hope so.
You never know.
Science is science. It shouldn't it shouldn't come down to that.
Yeah,
but humans are humans too.
True.
And for all we know, this DNA could be getting degraded too over time. Like we mentioned, they're transported. Who knows? Maybe they get degraded as they're transporting.
Or, if it's sitting out there a long time, that could happen too.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe they're also like stealth DNA, where they degrade faster than like any other animal. Or we're not sure if there are. Do you know if there's any animals that like degrade? Their DNA degrades faster?
None that I'm aware of, but what I'm thinking of with Bigfoot is, it seems like it's hard for people to find Bigfoot bones. And a lot of people have thrown out there that maybe their bones dissolve faster than human bones do in the elements, or animal bones do in the elements. And if you're going to apply that kind of logic, then why couldn't their DNA degrade faster too?
Telling me that Bigfoot is intentionally like disintegrating faster than other animals just to not hide, or just to hide their existence? Gone even after death.
Hide and seek grand champion. Yep. Again, I'm not throwing anything out until we have some sort of proof.
You really never know with how big like the universe could be. I mean, anything's possible, really.
Yeah, that's kind of the leap of logic you have to take here. I mean, sure, if we're talking about earthly animals, and if we're buying into the fact that, if Bigfoot exists, he's an earthly creature, then none of that stuff makes any sense. But if you want to go the other route and say that he's a multidimensional creature, or he's an alien, or he's something we don't even begin to understand yet, then I think everything's on the table. He's the ultimate stealth creature. I mean, you could even make the argument that he's like a skinwalker and his DNA changes after it gets, taken off his body.
Yeah, possibility. Yeah, there are a lot of problems with getting samples, and one that has just recently kind of been, I guess, exposed here is that a lot of these Bigfoot shows have supposedly, well, I'll put it this way, a lot of shows that are sort of like reality television kind of pushed, they tend to send their samples to slightly more shady and like unrealistic places that aren't as like high quality as you might expect.
Like they'll send it to a friend at a local university instead of sending it to like a real DNA lab.
Yeah, like at the university they'll have a bunch of students deal with it, and they'll make a couple mistakes. That'd be funny, but that's just an example.
Yeah, I remember, and I was talking to you guys about this before the podcast. I really wish I could remember what show this was on and which expert this was, but I've just consumed so much Bigfoot information over the last 5 years that it's all kind of running together. But there was one expert who, in debunking some of these claims, said, look, there are only 3 labs in the United States that can do a legit DNA analysis on this type of material and tell you for sure whether or not this is an unknown primate and something like Bigfoot that doesn't match anything in the known database. And he said, I've checked with all 3 of those labs and nobody has ever sent them Bigfoot material. So when these shows claim that they're sending stuff to the lab for analysis, they are either flat out lying or they're sending it to some, as you said, shady, local community college lab or something.
See, that's why we need to be the first. to do
Yeah.
that, even though it might cost our entire savings to do that.
But, that doesn't mean the guy making that claim is correct either.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I mean, people lie on TV frequently.
I mean, just hearing it like that for the very recently, I think maybe what he was leaning towards is that that is the highest confirmation you could possibly get. That's where there are no errors whatsoever. So it's definitive, definitely. But with the other places, maybe a little bit higher quality than a university, but those places may have an error or two, or a couple extra variables that may make it not a perfect answer.
Yeah, and anybody can do a basic analysis. I mean, I've seen it on Monster Quest. I believe I've seen Jeff Meldrum do this before, if I'm not mistaken, where he looks at a hair under a really powerful microscope and he identifies whether or not there's a medulla in it, like that little strand in the middle of the hair. And apparently that is something that is only occurring in primates, or at least not occurring in most of the other North American animals, so that, like a deer wouldn't have a medulla, or a raccoon wouldn't have a medulla, or a bear. So if you see that in a sample, he can immediately rule out, all of those other animals. Now we're talking human or primate. So I think there's some merit to it wherever it's being sent.
Can't the medulla just be formed by natural causes? Just if it's laying around and it's in severe natural causes, it may just do that.
I don't think so. I think it's actually like a central part of the hair. It's almost like a I don't know, like a blood vessel or a vein or something in the middle of the hair.
Oh, so it's like a full-on structure. I thought that was more describing a shape.
No, it's like a thin filament in the middle of the hair.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, you can't really argue with that too much then, if it's like a literal that. Okay.
Yeah. So that brings us to my favorite subject whenever we're talking about Bigfoot or aliens or dogmen, the possibility that there's a government cover-up involved. So let's say, and this kind of goes with what that expert said as well, because it all kind of links up. Every time DNA goes into a lab, some man in black shows up and says, you didn't see anything. So, when the other expert goes and says, hey, you ever receive any samples of Bigfoot? No, I never received anything. Or maybe the scientists are ordered to falsify results and say, no, this isn't a Bigfoot, this is a wolf, this is a bear, this is a dog. Or maybe someone actually goes in and swaps the samples, and they take the sample of real Bigfoot hair and replace it with clippings from a barber shop or something.
Again, a real shame if that's happening at any of these places.
Yeah.
This stuff.
Yeah, but certainly it would not be terribly difficult for any government agency to do, much less, if the infamous Men in Black really exist.
Yeah.
So I could very easily see the government, if for all the reasons we've discussed before, they don't want people to know about Bigfoot, they could easily have a trigger warning from various universities when they receive a package that is supposed to be Bigfoot hair, that automatically it sends a message to their headquarters and they dispatch somebody to go and investigate it themselves and say, oh, nope, no Bigfoot here. Or nope, if you want to keep your job and your pension, you're going to lose that sample in the mail. So there's just any number of ways they could manipulate it if they chose to do so. And I think we've discussed many times why they might choose to do so. So it's a possibility.
And then the shows obviously wouldn't show anything because the government said, hey, we don't want this to be shown, any of this, so you never know.
Yeah, that would be like the failsafe. If they tried to sabotage the test results and the shows didn't believe it, if the test came back and they said, wait, that wasn't even the hair sample I sent in, then the government could visit the show itself and say, yes, it was the hair sample you sent in, and if you ever want to broadcast on a show again, you're going to agree that that was the sample you sent in, and this is the results you got. It's a lot of power.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? I think we've got a lot of suggestions for why DNA analysis has so far been ineffective, but do you think there's ever a possibility that we're going to get a definitive answer on Bigfoot through DNA, or do you think that's kind of a dead end?
Well, I mean, if there still hasn't been any potential DNA sent to one of those 3 places, I think there's a wide open opportunity right there to confirm some things. Whether the logic makes sense or not, I mean, may as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if you can get DNA from the giant squid or whatever other former cryptids, I feel like you can get DNA from Bigfoot if it exists.
Of course, that's going to lead to a whole other discussion for another podcast where we're going to have to talk about if they get Bigfoot DNA, will they use it to create a Bigfoot in a lab? Like they're trying to do with the thylacine and everything.
Or are they already making Bigfoot in a lab?
Right, yeah, good point. Maybe that's where the DNA is coming from in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, stay tuned. We may be discussing this in the near future.
Maybe.
At any rate, we thank you for listening and thank you for subscribing. And if you have thoughts on this or any of our other topics, feel free to post your comments or send us a message on Instagram or an email. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks.